Hey, welcome to DWEEBS. Why don't you stay a while?
If this is the best Vice City has to offer, this is gonna be easy.
We have been really spoiled this generation with like open world games. Coming from like Grand Theft Auto 3, like games like that last gen, like open world kind of like was getting its footing. Got like Metal Gear Solid 5, we have Breath of the Wild, we have Final Fantasy 15, like stuff like that is just incredible. Like we're really lucky to have that.
Metal Gear in every previous iteration was this linear. You drop into this level or this stage and you move through it, or maybe this open environment. What I thought was so cool about Metal Gear Solid 5 was it brought sandbox and brought that approach from any direction, and you pick the base where you want to go and you travel there in your Jeep. And it was the first time Metal Gear went truly open world.
Yeah.
And the gameplay was just phenomenal. It was the best gameplay. It brought a level of gameplay polish to open world that I'd never seen before.
Yeah, this was a game that like once you played it, like everything pre and post, there was a pre and post. There was a BCAD for gaming. The controls being so fluid and the sneaking working like fluidly. I think the thing that we talked about a lot when we first was playing through this game was, hey, Mission 18, I sat there for an hour. It took me an hour. And then one of us going, I jumped in a Jeep and stole a Jeep and it took me 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And like that kind of stuff was like, whoa,
Yeah.
there's some discussion to be had here. Like, how did you do that?
It's always been one of those things where open world games would be forgiven for having janky or not great gameplay because it's, well, there's this world you can explore. And Metal Gear Solid, like you said, was this switch to, no, we have this open world game and it has the best gameplay, period, of third person sneaking around shooting.
Definitely.
I mean, it outclasses even games that are more linear and just focused on doing that.
There is a level of with open world games where they have to solve the problem of like some of these older ones you're kind of running for a little bit and then you're running more and then like that's kind of all you're doing. And this kind of fixes that, I think, because it has you do the system with the soldiers and like recruiting the soldiers, and like they're like in the meantime it's almost like a real-time strategy, like where are they at, and it'll pop up like, hey, this new weapon got built. They were able to build a new weapon for you, and you kind of like in the Peace Walker kind of introduced this where you get the enemy and you kind of put them up on a balloon and they go to your base, so they become part of your army.
But is anybody else, including I'm speaking for myself here, overwhelmed by the sheer size and volume of just the amount of game in these games?
When that's the thing, like when this started I was like, this is going to be my life for a while, and it was like 150 200 hours I poured into Metal Gear Solid 5.
The older I get, the older I get, I can't find the time or the dedication to pour into these things.
I think if they are well crafted, they're worth dumping the time into that I would have spent onto 10 indie games or 10 little goofy indie games. But if they're not well made, if they are kind of like wasting your time, then it is a huge dump.
The game has to have a unique trait. And what I mean by that is if I pick up random Assassin's Creed 8, whatever the game is, not hating on Assassin's Creed, but whatever the random open world game is if I open it up and I do an introductory level and then they drop me in a map with a bunch of pins and I do a couple side quests and it's generic fetch quests, I'm with you, I'm overwhelmed, I'm out. When the game has a unique trait for Metal Gear Solid, it's its gameplay. It is pure bliss, that gameplay. And then another game that falls in that category that has a very unique trait is The Witcher 3. And it has a very unique style of narrative design and quest design where the line between story quests and side quests and Witcher quests are like so blurred, where it's not like, a story quest is going to have cutscenes, but then your side quests have cutscenes, and sometimes they tie into your main quest.
What Witcher 3 did was something not a lot of games this generation are doing. With this generation of games, because there is so astronomical the cost to make these games, everything counts that they make. They're not making, like, if you look back at games like Final Fantasy 7, there was characters you could not even see that they made, and like little quests and story that you might not even see if you're not digging around, that they made that knowing that some people aren't even going to see it. Games this generation are not doing that. They are making sure you're seeing every nook, you know what I mean? Like everything they're making, they want to be,
it pops up in your quest marker.
Yeah, they want to make it worthwhile because they can't waste the money to do that. It is one of the only games this generation. Side quests to me are all I've heard somebody describe it before as FedEx Quest.
Yeah.
Where it's like, take Johnny his pills over here, go over here and take his food, and it's like, I don't give a frick. Witcher 3 is one of the rare ones where I did every single side quest, like, because every one kind of stood out to me, and every one was actually had a twist in it, and it had something worthwhile, worth your time. It never wasted your time.
There has to be a sense of though, like progression with the side stories and the main like storyline.
Sure.
I think that's where you end up with the balance where, wow, I just lost myself in 100 hours to side story, and I'm only past the second main quest story.
Yeah.
Your character becomes probably at that point too OP or too above the mark to continue the mainline story. I wish there was a game that kind of followed path as you progressed in your main story, you open up more side stories that are either more difficult, stuff like that.
I think this does do a good job of that, because you do get to points where it's almost too hard on certain things. Like, I got to come back to that. It shows you what level you should be.
Okay.
So it does kind of balance that out to a point.
Metal Gear Solid 5 had a really interesting mechanic as well, where if you leaned, the game would analyze what tools you used a lot of. Mm-hmm. So I used a lot of my silenced dart gun to like hit them in the head and knock them out, and then I would Fulton them out.
Yeah.
I did that for about 10 hours, and then they started wearing helmets that I couldn't do it.
Yeah, they'll change up.
The game reacts to what you use a lot. So if you use a lot of those like inflatable pop-up, you can make these inflatable snakes that pop up.
Yeah.
If you use this a lot, after about 5 or so hours, I heard a dialogue. The guy said, he's been using these. He's been using these. Ignore that. Yeah, don't believe it. So that is where it goes.
The balloons, it's not a person.
So you have to keep innovating on your mother base to keep making your tools better and try to combat how they're combating you.
That's good. That's a good extra add-on.
It feels more natural than, this is level 28 and I'm level 24, so I can't do it.
Yeah. So I think Metal Gear Solid 5, open world-wise, what it does for the genre, it solves sneaking gameplay.
Yeah.
And like this kind of emergent kind of gameplay of the stuff that can just happen. You know, anything can happen, and you can just kind of change it up and kind of, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, they're learning, they're having their helmets on. Now I got to change my strategy this time around. I think Witcher 3 solves that problem of like, Joe needs his, take this letter to Joe and then go see Billy. And it's like, it solves that of like, no, we're not wasting any of your time. Yeah. You're going to see some crazy stuff in these side quests, and it's all worth your time.
Pretty far back. You were internet royalty for licking the new PSP. You set the internets afire, and
thank you.
We had you on to do a little handheld gaming taste test.
Hey, what's up? Nothing much, just playing. Are you getting on for a while? Yeah, I'll be here for a little bit. Yeah. What is it, that game? I've been hearing people talk about it, Champ. What is it, though? Like an arena shooter, like Quake or something? That's cool. Oh, so you use like, there's no guns and stuff, it's just magnets? And you're pushing and pulling? Okay, like physics-based stuff. Oh, okay, like Smash Brothers, like off the edge and stuff, okay. Okay, kind of cool sounding, alright. I'll have to check that out.
I've got an idea how to settle this. Dance off.
Yeah, so what are you doing this weekend?
Coming out February 22nd, there's 2 versions available. There's a Wi-Fi version for $249 and a Wi-Fi 3G version for $299.
So there was some controversial games that came out. It did some new stuff. It did some exciting stuff. Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 to me is enjoyment and slow degradation on enjoying the game. It looks like all these boy bands, these boys going on an adventure. The thing that instantly sold me was they get on this car, they're in the car, and they're driving on these roads, and it looks like modern gas stations and all this stuff, but they're fighting these trolls. These like trolls from the original NES game come out. It's another, okay, we're taking, a game that, used to not be open world, and we're making it open world, just like Metal Gear Solid 5 was. And I think at this point, people were kind of like, do we need to keep making everything open world? And to this, I say yes. I think it was a smart decision. It looks like, okay, let's get in the car, road trip, hanging out with your boys. It looks like that. And I think this game totally delivered on that promise. You go to hotels for a night, you camp out. If you're kind of out in the wilderness, it's like, hey, there's really difficult enemies. Let's camp out. And all of these like kind of little details really makes you feel like you're on a road trip. With the good comes the bad. And then you have moments in the game where the story absolutely was not done in this. Where Metal Gear Solid 5 held its head above water and it is serviceable and there's some awesome parts in it. Final Fantasy 15 takes a nosedive at a certain part in the story where you go, oh, they just completely ran out of money, or they completely ran out of time and they had to cut it. It kind of was the king of not complete games.
I think that's a trap in open world games that you just mentioned, is now you have this game that looks stunning, has a great concept. Everything's there to be amazing, but they don't have to finish it.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get the complete opposite of the spectrum when you talk about games like Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
A game that when it came out gave you everything you thought it was and more.
Yeah.
And I think we all can sit here in the car, even though I can sit here personally and say that wasn't my most favorite game, can admit that that was one of the most complete open world games I've ever experienced.
What more were you looking for? More traditional Zelda? Is that kind of
I love the idea of the linear but open style.
Yeah.
The dungeons that you got in Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess, where you have a map, you work through the map, you solve the puzzles to open up more areas of the map. That right there challenged me a lot. But with the shrines you got in Breath of the Wild, the problem you typically ran into was there's just so many of them. And for me, that overwhelms me, like we talked about earlier. You get so overwhelmed that you're just like, I'm just gonna do the main story, frick the shrines, I don't want to play anymore.
To me, I think that Breath of the Wild is the best open world game ever made. And honestly, the reason that is because it's like a theme park. When you enter a theme park, the first thing you're like is either you're like, hey, where's a map? Or hey, that thing looks really cool in the distance, I want to go ride that. Or hey, you're asking your friend, are you hungry? Let's find some food. And that is what Breath of the Wild was you entered this world and you saw things in the distance. You had this map and you couldn't really see anything on it. It wasn't littered with icons, but you could climb to these vantage points and you could see things and add them to your map yourself. And it felt like you were exploring this theme park of a world and you were learning it yourself and you were figuring out all these things. And the other thing that I thought Breath of the Wild did so well was it told its story in a non-linear fashion. So the story already happened. The story's in the past. You're going to places and remembering the story. So you could go anywhere at any time and remember the piece of the story that's placed in that location. So many games, Witcher 3, Final Fantasy 15, they're taking the existing open world formula and they're making it the best it can be in their own way.
Yeah.
And now Breath of the Wild said, okay, here's a new formula, here's a new way of going about it.
I kind of disagree completely. I feel like there's a problem with open world games endemically in that they are all a mile wide and an inch deep. I miss the formula of yore when it comes to Zelda games, like Ocarina of Time had these very thematic dungeons that, all contained a special weapon or item that would allow you to progress and maybe go backtracking and get other hidden items. Breath of the Wild kind of hands you everything you need, like the bombs and stuff like that really early on. And they set you free and like, it's okay, kid, go ahead and explore. But I miss like I was talking about the thematic dungeons, I really miss that because that gave me a sense of progression. With the whole shrine mechanic, I felt that they were very, 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 very cookie cutter.
Those older dungeons, even the main kind of dungeons, kind of felt, like you said, design, kind of graphics wise, was like copy paste. I think that's made up for, but if you were into that, like I think Jacob, you're kind of into that, like those really thought out, well designed, like unique, each dungeon is unique and really well thought out. I could see that kind of was a bummer for people for this.
And I think
they replaced it with the physics. physics and that core, like, I'm gonna try this out. Oh, that worked. And it was similar in what Metal Gear Solid 5 did. Let's see, okay, can I do it that way? Oh, I had an easy time. Oh, well, I went through hell trying to get through that, you know, shrine, trying to get through that main boss. And it's like, oh, I tried this weapon combination, I tried this, and it's, that kind of kept you on your toes. Yeah, but if you're more for the more, because of the expanse of open world games, you kind of have to like spread that thing, kind of, you know, what you were saying, you know, mile long, inch deep. There is kind of that on the design wise, but I think that's made up for in core gameplay stuff. I'm just happy that returned from a kind of a long time of like, okay, you're gonna do this thing, you're gonna do this, and this kind of lets you go nuts. And I appreciate that, but I see the kind of controversy of it.
I felt their final bosses were all forgettable, and just as a way to pad out the game time or gameplay time of that game, they just added the shrines. And it was cool to see the sheer expanse of that world and to be able to like go explore. Because I remember that feeling as a kid when I first played Oblivion, and you exit the sewers. And my older brother was with me when we first played this, and it's like, hey, you see that mountain over there? You can go there, and yeah, it's way miles off in the distance. And I've always appreciated that feeling and that kind of mechanic, and that's cool. But I feel it's been done to death at this point. And
you can't have an open world game without having open-ended solutions.
You don't have to do the forest dungeon to the water, you know what I mean, the water temple, all that stuff, and it's like, that was something that like I think shook the industry big time, and I think a lot of people kind of got caught with their pants down if they had a game that kind of released at that time. It's like, why can't I climb on everything? Why can't I climb on this mountain?
What's really interesting to me is the 4 games we've really talked a lot about: Metal Gear Solid 5, Breath of the Wild, Witcher 3, and Final Fantasy 15. They're all the first game in a long-standing series that is going open world. They're kind of learning from these other series, and they're continuing to grow and evolve as a series. And that's kind of the bigger theme of open world games in general. Is it's interesting to see, as series that have gone on for a long time, if they adopt it, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
It brought back discovery to games. It brought back to that core of like NES, lets you do stuff in any order. It's not going to kind of constrict you. Honestly, 15, with its flaws, with its controversy of like, was this a complete game, whatever, I think totally nailed a road trip with your friends. And I've never ever played something like that in my life. They each have kind of their strength on that in the open world, what they add to kind of open world games. Great view.
It's very pretty.
Just like you. Frick, there's bugs. Are you kidding me? All over. They scare me.
Stop. On you.
Stop. Stop. Hey. Yeah, sorry I missed your calls and stuff. It's been busy. If you want to, yeah, that'd be fine. No, it hasn't been really. They haven't. It's not in the way or anything. If you want to come up tomorrow, I guess. That's fine. That time works for me. Do you need help or anything, or? Okay. All right. Well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow then. Okay. See you later. Bye.
Snake, listen to me. She didn't betray the United States. No, far from it. She was a hero who died for her country. She carried out her mission knowing full well what was going to happen. Self-sacrifice, because that was her duty.
Guys and gals, Jessica Chobot here. Now this is getting a little ridiculous. I am getting tons of emails and snail mail every day asking me to lick things, and 9 times out of 10 it's not even with tech. So I am retiring the tongue, but before I go, I'm giving you one final lick, and I have chosen the very hot, very sexy Voodoo Envy.
She will go down in official history as a war criminal. And no one will ever understand her. That was her final mission. And like a true soldier, she saw it through to the end. She wanted to live on in your memory. Not as a soldier, but as a woman. But she was forbidden to tell you herself. And that's why she told me. Snake, history will never know what she did. No one will ever learn the truth. Her story, her debriefing, will endure only in your heart.
What was some of like the memories you've had of open world games? Like some crazy stuff can like kind of happen out of nowhere. Me and you had some with Oblivion. You could do this glitch where you put at your bow, and whatever you had, the amount of bows, like arrows that you had, you would shoot, change to an item, and it would make that many of the item pop out of the end of the arrow.
We filled up an orc lady's house.
Yes.
Like she's mad at us because we're in her house. We broke in. She's like trying to attack us.
Yes, she's chasing us.
She can't get through the pumpkins. She's like waist deep in the pumpkins and can't, wade through them.
I was playing GTA 5 and these two cars on the highway just collide and the one guy gets out and just like lays on the ground, and then I hear someone say, "Oh my God!" and then I see an ambulance come flying over top of other cars, and it did a barrel roll trying to get in to help these other people, and this ambulance just comes flying in, and then the EMT gets out and he starts trying to resurrect, and his ambulance is on fire, and I've never seen something like that happen. I didn't interact at all or make it happen. I was just running.
Red Dead
Redemption, yeah.
They had a glitch on there where animals would replace human animations. So you would go up,
and vice versa.
Yes.
So we were out in the desert, and we just look up, and usually you would see like vultures swarming something dead, right? You would see people arms outstretched just
flying around. There were still kind of the awe moments too of Oblivion. Getting out, they start you in the sewers in that game.
Yeah.
And you get out, and you like coming out of the sewers is something I'll never forget. Like coming out and like looking. I remember getting my dad like, "Dad, come here."
Yeah,
you just have to see because it was like miles of like I can walk over that right now.
The second big memory I have was Fallout 3. There's a side quest where you meet this fancy guy who lives on the top of this tower called Tenpenny Tower, I think it was, and you can sabotage this this dormant nuclear warhead in the middle of this kind of like a starting town called Megaton.
Oh gosh.
And then you can go back there and like hit the button, and that place just goes up in a plume of smoke.
It's crazy how good the graphics are too for that part, and then that town's destroyed for the rest of the game.
It is. And like
you could just
the whole time going through, it's like it's not gonna happen. This isn't gonna happen.
I'm not gonna
be able to blow up a town in a game.
Yeah.
You can't do that in video games.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it did. I'm like, oh my god. And then the game saved. I'm like, oh my god, no.
My best all moment. Guys, as we're talking through all this, I was so hyped about No Man's Sky, and I literally, when I put it in and that game booted up, I sat down. I was like, "This is beautiful."
Yeah.
I mean, I was just taken away, and then I flew away. And as I visited each planet, it's obviously
getting out of the planet and some flying.
Yeah, that
regardless of what you think,
was beautiful.
Awesome.
I mean, there was no other game that could sit here and say like, it did this.
Yeah.
Too bad the gameplay just sucks.
Yeah, I think my first open world was Ocarina of Time. Now that was a different experience of like instead of awe, I got really extremely overwhelmed as a kid. I went, ooh, I'm intimidated. I couldn't really handle it.
When I first left the Kokiri Forest, and then you're talking to that infamous owl, and then you go out into the big field. That blew me away. Me and my brother and my sister were like, oh my gosh, you can go anywhere.
Not only is it a big game in terms of the open world, well, maybe not, relative to today's games. It's almost two games in one because you're a kid, you can do all this stuff in this big open world, and then you can be an adult, dude. You retread the same places, but things are different. Time has changed.
It almost is like
really
life,
cool.
man.
Yeah, it was really cool.
You come back and view things a different lens.
Yeah, go back and forth. That was like something, that mechanic we had never seen before, that at least I had never seen.
Yeah, definitely.